let's look at Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva. There's an important thing here. The Rambam starts giving lists. Who loses chelik in Olam Haba, right? And chelik in Olam Haba means a share in the world to come. People, terrible sinners. So the Rambam, as per the Rambam, starts to categorize everything and count everything. He says there's 5 people who are called minim. Minim is a type of heretic. How do you translate? He says there's apikorsim, there's minim, apikorsim, Epicureans apparently, and then there's those who kofrim b'Torah. They deny the Torah. So he actually makes a distinction. Minim, apikorsim, kofrim. Most people say, what's the difference? The Rambam actually tells you. The minim are 3 categories. Ha'omer she'ein sham Eloah. One who says there is no God, an atheist. Ve'ein lo olam manhig. The world is not controlled by anybody. There's no one running the world. Va'omer she'yesh sham manhig, avalheim shnayim o yoter. Or he says there is someone in charge, but it's 2 or more. By the way, this is forms of idolatry. Minut in the Rambam, what we consider classic idolatry, is a form of minut, or even atheism. They both fall into this category. Va'omer she'yesh sham ribon echad, ela shehu guf uval tmuna. Or you say there is but one God. You're a monotheist. You're all in the right path, but you say nope. He has physical form, or he has an image. Tmuna. Okay. V'cheina omer sheino levado rishon v'tzur lakol. Or someone who denies that this one God is first and only, and the tzur of everything. He's everything. The existence of everything depends on his. Or someone who worships a God other than God, the actual God, God lowercase other than God capital case. Or he worships this other God as an intermediary. Okay? Every one of these 5 is a mean. So basically, like I said, we consider various forms of idolatry mentioned here as a form of minut. I guess I consider a heresy, but I consider like a kfira heresy. So I don't know the proper translation. Over here, someone wants to offer something that'd be appreciated. And then he says what the apikorsim are. Someone denies prophecy. That Rambam says later in the Yesodei Torah. Later, he said earlier, we assume that God can give His word to those select individuals who have perfected themselves. We call them prophets. There's such a thing. He says there's no way that God could somehow put information in people's hearts. Okay, there's no godly way of doing that. Someone denies the prophecy, then no, stop. You have to go get a club. Someone denies the prophecy of our master Moses. Someone says that the Creator is unaware of people's behaviors, their actions, or even their thoughts. So those are people apikorsim. Then the Rambam says there's 3 types of kofrim. Someone who says that the Torah is not from God. There's no the divine source of Torah, denies it. And Rambam says this. I think people point out perhaps this is hyperbolic what the Rambam says. Afil pasuk echad, afil teva achat, okay, so they deny that that even a little bit is not divine. A single pasuk is not divine. A single word is not divine. Or they say that Moses put this in on his own volition. It was his own decision. It wasn't dictated by God. Hareza kofer b'Torah. So he's denying the Torah. Next, he says the chena kofer b'ferusha, or someone who denies the explanation of the Torah, which means the Torah b'shebal peh, the oral tradition of how to interpret the Torah. V'hichish magideha, or he denies the traditions of those who interpret the Torah, which is the sages, the official interpreters. Kigon Sadok uvaitus. He says, for example, of those who were machish magideha were Sadok and Baitus, who founded the groups, the Sadducees and the Baituthians. And by the way, the Rambam lumps other groups of them, those who deny Torah Shabbal Peh. He says the Karaites of the Rambam's day, and I guess the Rambam would describe other groups also that don't work within Torah Shabbal Peh, which there are in many, although in Rambam's eyes, they're all just permutations or reincarnations. In that sense, the Rambam does believe in reincarnations of Sadok and Baitus. Or one who makes a claim, this is the important part we're getting to. So it makes a claim that the Creator has basically swapped out. There's a mitzvah, there used to be a mitzvah, now it's not, now a different rule, like the Christians do, by the way. He's thinking very much like the Christians. It used to be there was mitzvah to do this, now there's a mitzvah to do that. Something entirely else. Uchvar batala Torah zo. And this particular teaching, this Torah, this law, this instruction, has now been nullified. Afa pi shehi haitami Hashem. Even though it was once from God, it's now been overridden. New Torah, new mitzvah, or new Torah. That's an important point. What is mitzvah? Is a specific commandment. Torah is the instructions that God gives, the underlying rules that explain to us how to keep the commandments. And he says this is what the Notzrim and the Hagrim believe. And Hagrim is just a code word for Islam, Muslims, and Notzrim is Christians. So notice that even though the Rambam declared in Hilchos Avodah Zarah that the Christians are considered idolaters, he says that also in his parish to the Mishnayos. Christianity, whichever form it is, it's all forms of idolatry, in his opinion. But here, he says the Christians, he doesn't go into what they do with regards to their conception of God. They could say that the Christians are the kind who believe that there's more than two gods, or that they believe he has physical form, etc. He didn't lump them in the first group, what he called the minim. Here, he was trying to get to the point that the Christians have replacement. This is not replace the Jewish people, the replacement theology, but here it's that they say that certain parts of the Torah have been overridden. The Torah has been given once again, so to speak. There are new teachings that override the general ideas of the Torah and also specific commandments of the Torah. That's what he's doing over here. So I'm asking a question. Let's say you would have a group arise among the Jews who say that indeed the Torah has given us commandments regarding running a country, fighting wars against their enemies, treating enemy combatants, enemy civilians who have been captured, enemy combatants who have been captured also, all the different halachas we're talking about today. And let's say someone were to say, you know what, we are not going to look at for what the Torah says, the specific commandments and the instructions of the Torah. Instead, we're going to, let's say, write our own script. We're going to write our own mitzvahs. We're going to write our own code. And we'll call this, let's say, just for sake of argument, we'll call this the IDF Code of Ethics and the Doctrine of Purity of Arms. So just as an example, okay? I'm not saying this is something that actually exists, although maybe it does. If you were to say that now there's a new group of teachings that should be governing the Jewish people's actions, and these are considered sacred rules, what would Maimonides say about that? I believe that, based on what we've seen, that if you were to chas v'shalom have such an idea, that there's a new code of ethics and with its own commandments and its own rules, and people were keeping them as steadfastly as they should, let's say, the Torah. For them, this is the Torah. This is their chok v'lo yavor. Perhaps Rambam would count them among these kofarim, those who deny the Torah. Just an idea. I want to hear what, of course, I don't want to hear from everybody at home. There's some people say, send your questions or comments. Really, I only want to hear the ones that are educated, the ones that are sourced, the ones that are at least logical. If you have an emotional argument against it, please, I don't have time for that. But I wonder what others who are educated and are worthy of delivering opinion have to think about this.